Fitness with New Method Wellness.
Good morning, everyone. This is Deanna Crosby from New Method Wellness and our podcast, Stating the Obvious. Today, our guest is my dear longtime friend, Tommy Dussault.
Hello.
Say hi, Tommy.
Hi there. How are you doing, Deanna?
I'm doing good. Pretty good.
Good.
Yeah. How are you doing?
Doing excellent.
You just
Excellent.
had
Yeah.
some weird stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. It's roller coaster, but I appreciate you having me on the podcast. It's definitely an honor.
I love talking to you anyway. So we'll just let other people listen in finally.
Perfect. Sounds good.
So one of the things I like to ask people is, what do people know you for? Like, what is something we can say that you're famous for? I know, but I think our guests don't know.
Yeah. I would say that music, songwriting is probably what people associate me most with throughout the years. I've started out pretty young playing music. So by the time, my friends were in college, I had already dropped out of college and was playing music, getting to open for people that I looked up to. Started out and kind of just holding the wall places, and then got some pretty cool opportunities with that. So probably music.
That's awesome. How old were you when I met you, Tommy?
So I had just turned 19.
Oh my God, it's so funny. I remember the first day I met you.
I don't.
I do. Of course not. Yeah, that was a different time. What was your favorite song you've ever written? What was your song that you just love?
Probably any songwriter will say this, but the last song I put out, but in reality, it was a song. Most of the time when I write songs, they're done in a day or a week. Like if it takes longer than that, it's not working. But I put out a single right the January before COVID hit, right? So long story there, but the song's called Faith. And
oh yeah, I love that song. Yeah, you sent me that song, I think.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was actually a song that I had tucked away in the notebook, which then made it to the iPhone note section, and it sat there for years. I just never knew really how to write the rest of it, and then had some tragedy kind of unfold, and a fellow singer-songwriter passed away and left behind a 4-year-old daughter. So,
I'm so sorry.
she died in a drunk driving accident. She was intoxicated, and
that's so sad.
It really is. It's really unfortunate. And what's more unfortunate was she left behind this young daughter, and now if you go Google her mom's name, all you find are the worst things about her as a person, and the media and everything. But anybody that knew her knew she had a heart of gold, and she struggled with some serious issues. And so it's like, what do you say to the little girl? And so that's where
the song came from.
That's how I finished the song.
Tommy,
so
you're killing me.
So yeah, it was actually one of those things where a couple of days after it happened, I was out in Round Rock, Texas, and sat down with one of my buddies, and we just kind of went line for line and finished it. And I think it means a lot to me because it's a lot of different storylines coming together, but also the feedback I've gotten from mothers and single mothers and mothers in addiction, specifically, that get the references in the song, all the messages and strangers that have, basically said, hey, like, thank you for putting that out like that. It's hard to beat that feeling. So
I have a friend who wrote a book, and he said, like, it was like 10 years ago, and It was about recovery and addiction. And he said, like a couple weeks ago, he got an email from Ireland. He
Yeah.
didn't even know his book was there.
Yeah.
And it was like, thank you. Your book has helped me seek recovery. And he
Yeah.
was just like that's the best thing that could happen to me out of all this.
Yeah. No, it's more than you can ask for. 100%. And it's still a shock when you're going through your messages or all the different files and messages. Some of them don't always come through if you're not, friends on social media or whatever. And so, it's pretty incredible. But, um, I don't know. It's a blessing to have been able to put that out.
Isn't
Certainly.
it interesting? Because I what I've seen with you, I've known you for a long time, and this is what I've witnessed. You like noticed or maybe realized that you had this gift, this artistic gift. And now it's almost like what you're doing for others with your gift is the gift for you.
Yeah. No, you couldn't have said it any better. And I mean, you've known me for a lot of years. I mean, years ago, if you put me in a small room with 10, 12 people, I was shaken to death.
Mhm.
It was something weird about I could play if it was a bigger room. Just kind of for whatever reason, you put me in an intimate setting, it was like I can't do it. And now it's like I am equally comfortable in any room on stage or in a chair in a room possible.
Did you ever think that would
Because
happen for you?
no, and reason it happened is I was able to start actually connecting with people through it and not just trying to showcase something
Mm.
instead of trying to put myself up there. It's like, all right, like this is about the song or this is about the connection. So once that came in, the rest was pretty easy.
Don't you wish you could like write that formula for artists?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's changed a lot with social media and certain apps that are more popular than others. You see people kind of jump up pretty quick in the music scene, but it's I think what's missing for some is that connection. So
Mhm.
once you tap into that, the rest comes pretty naturally.
I feel like that as a therapist. Like in the beginning, it was a lot about me, like how good I am at this and da 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 da.
Right.
And when I shifted to what does this person need right now and why are we here, right now, everything changed. And I had a supervisor call me out on it one time. I was like, well, they're not going to my meeting. And she goes, your meeting? She goes, your meeting? What are you talking about? When did you start your own program? And I was like, oh,
Right.
oh,
Yeah.
wait. It's my meeting. And she goes, it's your meeting? I don't, it like changed
Exactly.
everything for me.
Yeah. No, it's yeah, they say your ego is not your amigo. And I mean it's true. But I mean that shift that occurs, it sometimes like I didn't realize it, and I don't know if it was that way for you also. I didn't realize it first. It was other people that started noticing little subtle changes about how it did something or whatever. So it took me a little bit longer to realize that. So
I think it took me plenty long too. It seems like you're pretty passionate about helping people. Can you tell me about that?
yeah,
It's like you're pretty passionate about helping people. Can you tell me about that?
yeah, definitely. I think that that's also a big shift because previously it was kind of about myself and what can I get. Um, Helping people today, as cliche as it is, it fills my cup. Like it's what allows me to keep doing what I'm doing. And not only that is like I really root for the underdog in any situation. And I think particularly when you go through certain things and you make it out and you're on the other side of it and you never thought you'd be on that side of it, um, you want to grab everybody's hand and pull them over with you. So um, I think that's where a lot of it comes from is making it to the other side, but also knowing I could just as easily not be. So that's certainly instrumental for me, um, is helping people. Now, it's really inconvenient sometimes. It's not always easy or convenient. So especially, and I know you know this better than anybody, but especially, when you are um, in situations helping people and it's not just them, it's also their families. Because that'll really break your heart. So gone through a lot of that recently also. And so my emotion gets involved. And so I know it's a fine line sometimes. Um,
I
but
think if there ever comes a day in my work where my emotion is not involved, I'm going to quit.
Yeah, it makes sense though. Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
want this to be like, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want this to be like a flat clinical experience where,
Yeah.
I'm a medical provider and you're a patient. And, I want to see into your soul. I want to connect. I want you to know that I'm here with
Yeah.
everything I got.
And that's what makes you great. Truly
Back at
is
you.
it comes across, and that's the thing that I think helps people the most is that they see that and they feel that, and being real with people, and showing that you have a heart for them also, is just as impactful, I believe.
I don't think I would have believed anybody in the beginning of my own personal recovery if I didn't believe that they had slept in their car, that they had stolen from friends.
Yeah, exactly,
If they're telling
exactly.
me, like, this is what you need to do to get better, I would have been like, you don't get it.
Yeah, no, I completely am on board with that. Matter of fact, my first treatment center I ever went to, my case manager hadn't gone through any of it.
Mm.
What wasn't in recovery, and I think especially given my age, I was 18, 19. Uh, pair that with time and treatment. Um, it was not a recipe for success, because I didn't trust her. I didn't believe her. And I actually said to her, a textbook is not going to help me. Like,
You said those words?
yeah, because like,
Wow. That's
um,
so insightful for a 19-year-old, 18-year-old.
well, you could just tell that her responses, it's like she went and looked it up and said, okay, I'll be right back. And like, she's regurgitating stuff out of, a science book or a self-help, but it wasn't like any type of relevant information for what I needed to hear. It was all very much so like just down one lane. And so yeah, I relate to it, to what you're saying there is it's a lot of it is like I didn't trust people, and or
Yeah.
what
Why would you?
or that you can help me.
Right. Right. But do you know, I mean, I was talking, a friend of mine is a deaf interpreter and she interprets for a lot of medical calls. And she says the things that they tell them, she wants to go, don't do that. Go to an AA meeting. She's like, that doesn't make any sense. And like she was talking to a doctor not too long ago, and he was saying, you need to wean yourself off of all. And she was like, and as an interpreter, you can't give your opinion at all.
Yeah, yeah,
So
no,
she was
it's
just like sitting there going, why are you not telling them to go to a meeting? It's free. And she could, and she just said it was so frustrating
I'll keep it brief because I know that I can get long winded with this, but that is years ago. I made a decision to step outside a little bit in that world, and kind of it's kind of like I had two worlds clash together. Um, People that knew me and were close to me knew what was going on. People that weren't had no idea. And it wasn't until I actually was live on the radio, and
I remember this.
the the DJ on the radio show knew me personally, and he called me out on it. He said, what have you been up to, Tommy? Why don't you let everybody know?"
Oh
And
gosh.
so
Okay, let me tell you.
I'm in had just gotten out of I was in sober living. I
Oh
actually had to
God,
get permission to miss a morning meeting in the house to go do this radio show.
that's
Um,
hilarious.
so here I am, like he's like, "What have you been up to, Tommy?" And so I had two options. I either tell the truth or I lie. Right.
I'm on sabbatical.
So yeah. So what had happened was I tried to just brush it off. Oh, I've been writing songs, whatever. While that was true, he wanted me to let everybody know what's going on. And in that process, I've actually gone back. I did a show not too long ago and thanked him for that. Because I've been able to help way more people by giving them the straight up truth about me and what actually helped than some generic answer about what to do. It's like that. How is it helping anybody if I'm not actually giving a resource? So I can appreciate that.
I was being interviewed one time, and if I was a member of a 12-step program, hypothetically, I wouldn't tell anybody at this level because it's against traditions in 12-step programs. So I was saying on this podcast, I've been to a lot of support groups. I think social and spiritual support is super important. And I kind of figured that translates pretty easily. But several people were calling, going, "What support groups does she go to? I want to go to that support group." And where did
Yeah.
she find a free support group? It's $1, And
Yeah.
so the interviewer,
Exactly.
he had to call each place. I mean, each person that called in and wrote and say, "Okay, these are the support groups she's referring to." So there's kind of like a
Oh man.
tricky,
Yeah.
tradition,
Yeah. I was really at a bridge with that traditions and myself, because I can certainly understand and appreciate it being in place.
Right, right.
But I
And that it
also
wouldn't
was
work
like,
without it.
Yeah. So it was kind of like a tough thing
Mhm.
to do, but I had to take a lot of time and realize that, hey, if I'm going to be a representation and I'm going to put myself in this light, I better be walking the walk behind it.
100%.
Because
100%.
there was no, like, I've done that in other areas of my life in the past with things plenty of times. So it definitely it definitely keeps me accountable because now I can't hardly go anywhere and people not know. So
Well, one of the things I can say as a clinician is my professional opinion is that if you think you have a problem with any kind of substances, you can Google an Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous or Overeaters Anonymous or Gamblers Anonymous meeting in your area, and it's free and you can get free support. So I always like to mention that whenever I can. And as a clinician, I can say that freely because that's my professional opinion for people who are looking for help. I had a guy come in here one
right.
time not too long ago, and he's telling me all about his drinking for like the first half of the session. Somebody sent him in from the outside. And I go, "Have you ever been to an AA meeting?" And he says this line I'll never forget. "I asked my doctor if I should go to AA, and he said I wouldn't like it. It's too religious." I was like, that was just the medical opinion that was given to you? And he said, yeah.
Yikes.
So
Yeah.
I say, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go to 6 different AA meetings in between now and seeing me again. And then come back in a month and tell me what you think. If it's too religious or not religious enough or just the perfect amount of spirituality, give me your opinion of just let's do an experiment. He comes back a month later. He goes, yeah, I'm going to fire you. You're $200 an hour. That's free. And he goes, they're all want to help me. They're giving me rides. They take my phone calls. You don't take my phone calls. He goes, yeah, you're fired. And I was like, okay, perfect.
Yeah. They'll even to eat after.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
They'll buy you a
so
burger. Somebody will buy you a burger.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, no, it's a really incredible thing to have that the opportunity to walk through those doors and be able to help people now um doing the same thing. And it's like the blueprint is already there. So it's
Right. You just do the deal. Tell me what your biggest failure has been and what you learned from that experience.
yeah. I think anybody that knows me knows that I can sometimes try to be too independent. Um,
Mm, that's a
and
great thing to bring up.
I think that my biggest failure was trying to do it all alone and trying to be too headstrong, um, even inside of the program. Um, while it has served me in certain areas of life, this is not one of them. That it does me no use to try to go about it alone. It resulted in a really bad couple years for me, relapsing, and like that was, people. It cracks me up sometimes when people come back from a relapse and they want to tell you where they went wrong. It's like, well, you know, it wasn't that I didn't do a thorough enough fourth and fifth step. Like it wasn't, that's not why I relapsed. I relapsed because I cut all my other network and resources off, like any connections I cut off. And it was like me trying to go about it in my own world. And when I did that, um, while yes, certain aspects of my life, I might have got a little bit further being ultra focused on, but for as little as it got me in certain places, the other aspects of my life, I was way off, way off. And so it caught up to me. And now, um, like, I guess having that experience, I'm able to, in other areas of life, outside of recovery, even, it's like, all right, if I really, really need help, like, I'm not afraid to ask for it.
Mm,
Because for a long time, it was not asking anybody for anything.
why not?
I think a lot of that came from one side of it was pride and ego, but that was equally matched with shame and guilt. It was like, I did this to myself. Like, I got here, I'm going to get myself out of this. And the shame of, my parents have helped me the entire time. My family has helped me the entire time. My friends have tried to be there, whatever, support group I had in place was there for me. It was never like they were not there. So there's like this guilty feeling inside at the same time. It's like I owe everybody.
Mm,
And
hmm.
so I'm not going to open my mouth. Already done enough for me. And that can be super detrimental. Is what you're not accounting for is what circumstance are you in? What are you going through? How are you actually doing? Because you're not 100% every day of the week or every week of the month, right? So it's progressive. And the worse I was doing mentally, spiritually, physically, the less apt I was to try to ask for help or get somebody to, you know,
It's like backwards, right? Backwards
exactly,
thinking. Like when you needed it the most, you're like, I don't want to bother anybody.
exactly. Yeah.
Isn't it interesting too that sometimes when we bother people, they say, God, I really needed to talk to you, or you listen to you, or you really, I just recently heard that one phone call can save two lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, 100%. You've even said that to me, and I know I've said that back. It's like, even if it's not some serious level, it could just be,
What are you
uh,
doing?
I have a couple friends that, we're not as close as we once were, kind of live all over the country, but we check in,
Hmm.
a monthly or so. And it's so funny that it's never planned like, hey, I'm going to text you or call you next Tuesday. Or I'll get a message from one of them and I might just be just wrecked on something
Mm.
I'm stressed out about or whatever. And you get that message or you get that phone call. And it's like, they might be asking me for a favor or something, but it totally just got me out of everything I was wrapped up in. And
100%. I have a
so,
friend who went through divorce a couple years ago, and just a colleague, really. And I'd be like on the weekend, and I just like think of him, and I would text him, sending you love and light. I hope your day is okay. And I didn't really, and he'd write back, oh, thanks. And then, like 6 months later, he said, every single time that happened was exactly when, and I wasn't like planning it. And I'm not even that close to him. It just popped in my head. And I thought, and I've been trained to think of others because I'm so inherently think of myself.
right.
Like my sponsor says, I'm not much, but I'm all I think about. And so,
100%. Yeah, that's me.
and so I just like, I would just, because of my training, I would reach out and be like, hey, how's it going? And then I didn't know, but to him, it was everything.
Yeah. No, it's super impactful. And like the smallest, littlest things can mean the absolute most. That it's the little miracles to me is
Mhm.
the timing of that sometimes.
Mhm. The God shots.
Certainly. Yeah.
Tell me about the three most influential people in your life and how they impacted you.
Yeah, I'm a rule breaker bender sometimes. So I'm gonna just pair my parents into one of those.
Mm.
Because like I I am very, very fortunate to have parents that stuck with me through anything and everything, even when it meant them telling me I would no longer have a family. And bringing the hard truth to, you know, to me in a way that um, finally they did. I've seen many, many, many parents who cannot do that. And
Yet.
yet, uh, the good correction there, because it is certainly, it woke me up in a way that I hadn't been, and going through what I went through, but then having them back in my life. Once I got in a place where trust could be rebuilt, the love was never um, right, but the interactions and relationship had to change. Like that dynamic had to change. So that certainly influenced me more than anything. Was having my family, specifically my parents, there. Um, Next, I would say, rest in peace, Kyle, who was a friend I made um, in treatment, and he unfortunately passed away as a result of addiction. He influenced me um, in ways that are hard to describe. Having been in treatment with hundreds of people, I've been through more than one or two treatment centers. Um, and so I have met hundreds of people that I've lived with, shared rooms with, etc. Um, he and I bonded in a way that was unlike any other bond I'd ever had. And we couldn't have been any more different. We were not raised the same. We're not from the same place. Our interests were not exactly the same. But I think we met each other at the right time in a way where um, take a step back. When I entered treatment that time, I had basically told myself I was not going to meet anybody or make friends with anybody because I know the drill. And actually, you probably remember this. Is I I know we had talked about it as I was in a place in my life where it never went well. Like making a friendship never ended well. Like either relapse, die. Like it's never. I'm not going to know these people any longer. I was very, very bitter, very absent from relationships. So ironically, that was
Ironically.
um, Kyle stepped into my life,
Mm.
uh, and it was like, we both like to write. So having that, you know, interest was there. And so we started, writing songs, poetry, anything. We had a little bit of free time, which led us naturally having more conversations about what we'd gone through, where we're at. And um, I think having hope um, for a better tomorrow, like he gave me that. And that, this was possible. Um, and when I was slipping behind, um, he was dragging me to meetings or introducing me to, hey, this guy would be a great sponsor, or
Mhm.
um, and I think that speaks a lot about somebody who's in the exact same situation you're in, um, yet had that drive and that kind of spark for life that I don't always like connect with someone in that way. And he was very, very encouraging, not only with, me continuing to create and write and make music, but also um, to step outside and be comfortable doing that. Because my family, friends, there was a lot of fear around that aspect of my life because it was a vicious cycle of like music meant Tommy relapses. Like music means
I
Tommy's
remember
going to be in
that.
bars. Like
I remember that.
music was
I never agreed with that,
the,
Tommy.
yeah. So,
But I
um,
can understand why other people did, but for me, they just didn't have to be
yeah,
mutually exclusive.
yeah, exactly. And so Kyle, I don't know how to even frame that, but he was like in my corner in a way that wasn't like, you know, screw everybody. It wasn't like from a place of, you know, negativity. It was like just from a place of, I believe in you.
Mhm.
And so we kept in touch right up until eventually. some things went really wrong in his life, unfortunately. And I still every now and then keep in contact with his mother, and
I bet she appreciates that.
100%. Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the hardest things um, to not get emotional about was there was a kind of a ceremony done in honor of Kyle during it was recovery month, but it was the national overdose awareness day. So a bunch were connected online, um, reading a poem he had wrote, and his mom had picked out who was going to read certain poems, and the poem I got was um, remarkably hard to get through without breaking down, and it
What
was
was it?
the greatest. It was the greatest honor at the same time.
What was the
It was a
poem?
poem it was one he had written,
Mm.
and the nature of it was graphic, um, and kind of about how ugly this beast of addiction can be. It was not a happy, joyous, free poem. It was very much one of the realest things I've ever read, and it was like that ability that he had to really go there, and in a descriptive format, because this thing is not pretty at all, and it can be very, very ugly. But Kyle had a heart of gold, and a drive that, you know, I hate saying this. I really hate saying this, especially with as many experiences as I've had. Not necessarily, I'm not on the clinical side, but um, he was somebody I thought that had, figured out what works for him and would keep doing it. I truly thought that, which nobody's safe in this thing. And so the backside of that influenced me just as much to um, keep my feet moving.
Be aware.
100%. I have stopped counting and intentionally stopped counting how many people have passed away. A ridiculous number. And I don't mean people that, oh, I saw him at a meeting once. No, no, no. Like people I've lived with, I've bunked with, like, and um, I, I'll say this is I relapsed after he passed. And so I can't sit here and say that, it was this driving force, but the backside of that is why I got sober again and have not allowed myself the luxury of not taking this seriously or just thinking everything's going to be fine. So
They really mean
that,
what they say, one
yeah,
day at a time. Like after hearing that for 34 years, you would think that it would just be like drilled into me. But
yeah, yeah, no, exactly. So, super, super influential. And then next would be my girlfriend, who, um, I have been able to accomplish certain things I wanted to accomplish in life and sobriety. Nowhere close to where I want to be, but have gotten to do some really cool things. But one of those that was, always on my list was to have a healthy relationship.
I'm
Which
not laughing.
yeah, um I didn't really know if that was
If you
attainable.
were capable,
Yeah, I really didn't know. As much as, anything's possible, that was like one of those things that,
maybe maybe it's not for me. Maybe it's not in the cards.
yeah, well, if I was in a relationship, I knew it was gonna be toxic and it was gonna like not be great. I would do it anyways. But I didn't think like having a healthy relationship was something that I would be able to have. And so, um, to have that and have her in my life, it has certainly changed me in certain ways for the better. But in seeing the big picture a little bit more than my tunnel vision. So
What do you think that the one thing in your recovery program, because we all have the way that we do it, hopefully closer to the the printout, like you said, the layout, than farther, but we all do different things. What do you think is something about your recovery that maybe there are some or many people don't agree with?
yeah, there's more than one, but I think that the biggest thing people don't agree with about my recovery is it's not traditional. It is not always inside the lines, and I guess what I mean by that is paired with, we touched on it earlier, with music, and certain aspects about what ignites me inside and gets me going is also really dangerous. If you're not um, spiritually,
Conscious.
yeah,
Mhm.
spiritually fit, conscious to uh, your environment. And so I would say that's probably one of the bigger ones is the situations that I've um, signed up for. Alongside of that is um, I'm not a one size fits all
Mhm.
kind of guy with really anything, and especially recovery, because um, I won't say exactly. Uh, some of the meetings where I live, there are some places that are very, very, very old school, very, very,
Dogmatic.
very, very much so.
I hear
And
you. I hear you.
yeah, like to the extent that it's harmful in
It's
ways
detrimental.
and not helpful. And
I was just
um,
telling somebody when I got sober, like there were several older men that would come up to me and say, you know, I spilled more on my tie than you drank. You're probably not an alcoholic. And I'd go, I'm not, because I think I am. But you're saying, I mean, they don't know how much I drank and how much they spilled. They were just assuming because I was 22
right.
that I didn't have that same experience that they had, those same bottoms. And it was really detrimental because it made me think maybe I don't belong here. Maybe this is not, and I 100% belonged there.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
You'd have to answer that quick.
Uh, yeah, no, gosh, I'm not a fighter or an aggressor in sobriety. I used to be when I was
Yeah.
younger.
Yeah.
I'd get real riled up. I would punch a curb if I had to. Like I would just take it out. Um, and now I'm not. But the funny thing is the I've never had a confrontation in or around meetings in my life
Wow.
until um until I couldn't take it one day in a meeting that was full of extreme old timers. There was a newcomer. course, in the back of the room. But this guy didn't know the format of a meeting. It was probably his first or second or third meeting ever. He was not sober, and
What
he
a
didn't
better place to
understand why
be.
he, yeah, and he didn't understand that he had to refer to drugs as alcohol in an AA meeting,
Yeah.
right? And so they're basically going off on this guy, like, in a public setting, to the point of, if it was me, um, I would never go back. I would never walk through that door again. The way they were talking to him. And so I took him out in the parking lot and just kind of, having that conversation. It's like, hey, don't even worry about that. Like, let's talk about let's talk
Yeah.
about what's going on and have
Yeah.
a real conversation. And then after, one of the guys came out of the parking lot, and he's like, you kids, and other choice words. But so that, to me, is like, I take a stand on that pretty heavily. And certain people don't always agree with my thinking on that, but it's same as we talked about traditions earlier. And I think what you have to bring into account is, um, I always ask them, I say, okay, and how much fentanyl were you doing back in the 70s? Like, these are not all the same. Yes, the principles. Yes, there are certain things that,
I completely understand singleness of purpose. What
yeah,
I'm concerned about is the approach.
yeah, exactly,
Because
exactly.
if I
So,
sat down a newcomer and said, let's talk about singleness of purpose and like why it's important, and if somebody comes in here and they've never done a drug, they might never come back.
yeah,
Okay. So let's just talk about like why it's all the same. Alcohol's a drug, like it doesn't really matter, but the vocabulary is so important in this place. I wonder if I'd have sat down and talked to that person like that, if they would have had a different experience than a bunch of people raging on them in a public setting.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's so silly.
yeah. It really is. And I think it speaks to, like, the absence of, like, why we're here in the first place. Like, is
Right.
it baffles me sometimes, but it is what it is. It's just like, the other thing I would say I'll pair with that is, these steps, and the process of recovery. Um, I am a quick relief kind of guy. And um, I won't go too much into depth, all the history and, of, you know, but they weren't taking a year to take someone through the steps when this thing first started, right? It was done throughout a day and a night,
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of people. Now, is that the best route? I don't think so. You need clarity. It could work. It could work. I think there's some clarity necessary. And there's not a set in stone timeline
Mm-hmm.
for, the action of recovery. Like, I don't believe in that. So I think that might be one of the other maybe controversial things that I bring, is like, um, yeah, I'm not going to drag this out. At the same time, the steps are in order for an important
Mm-hmm.
reason and should be followed that way. But at the same time, like, let's start getting into some action and start, bringing someone into the process of recovery. You don't need 6 months to get to the fourth and fifth step, and you don't need 3 months to figure out the first step. Like, I think that's ridiculous. Um,
I love that. Somebody asked me the other day if somebody with 4 months could be her sponsor. And I said, Has she completed the steps? First, I said that's between you and your sponsor. That's not mine. But I'm going to give you my opinion if you're asking for it. Has she completed the steps? And she said she did all her steps in the first 3 months. And I said, does she have what you want? And she said, yeah. She goes to step studies. She goes to a lot of meetings. Her program is the most important thing in her life. And I said, then why not?
Yeah.
And she said, well, people are telling me she can't sponsor me without a year. And I said, who are these 12-step police that you're referring to?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that written in the big book? Like, no one can sponsor you until you have a year. I've never seen it. I've read it a few times and I've never seen it, but if you could find it, I'll read it and I'll follow
Yeah.
it. And I'll follow it, but I haven't to this day. So maybe it's not there.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's plenty of examples of people that have, not only 1 year, have over 10 years that are sober in recovery.
But don't have anything I want.
Don't have anything I want, who are secretly doing blow and are dead 2 months later. But 2 months prior, we're telling everybody how to be sober. So, like, I mean, that's a real thing.
We
And
used
that's
to
not,
say, be nice to the newcomer. They might be your sponsor someday.
yeah, I've had it happen.
You have?
Well, I had a client while I worked at treatment later with my sister.
I love that.
So, there's no, like,
You just never
better.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me what the one question is you wished I had asked you and how you would have answered.
Um, Probably the gift of sobriety, that I never even thought about. And that comes from the process is being able to look the world in the eye. I kind of pride myself on being able to have a social exchange with anybody, being able to talk to people and all that, whatever. But I could make it about your teeth or your nose, but I wasn't gonna like really look you in the eye. And there was no
Okay.
way I could go out. I could not go out into the world and be myself 100%. Whether I'm in the workplace, whether I'm on a stage, whether I'm at home, like being able to carry myself in that same light was something I never even thought about. It was like, how do I not drink? How do I not do dope? Like, how do I not get in trouble? How do I figure this life thing out? But the byproduct of that is like being able to have that freedom that I never knew existed and I never believed was possible.
Like the roadmap for people like us. All these people who aren't like us have these roadmaps and they follow them and they go to college and they get married, they do all their stuff. It's like, I can't follow that roadmap. That doesn't make any sense. And then this miracle happened to you and I where somebody went, here's a roadmap for you because you are a different, Einstein said you can't judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree.
Right.
And I always thought, like, I can't climb a tree. I'm a fish. So that makes me bad and wrong. And then all these people came along like you and said, no, you're not supposed to climb a tree. You're supposed to swim in the ocean. And I was like, oh, and they were like, here's this roadmap for swimming in the ocean. And I was like, oh, that's all I have to do. And I can be just like that person.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that that's really one of the greatest gifts that I didn't think was possible or really know how free you can be. So
I love that, how free you can be. That's going to be my repeater line today. How free can you be?
yeah.
Okay, so to wrap this up, tell me where listeners can find you online or where on pub. And I mean, are you still performing in
Um,
person?
I'm kind of taking a break from that at the moment, but
It's
yeah.
so weird to me that I've never seen you live, but I've seen you like in my office or in a room playing guitar, singing to like people I know and love.
Yeah.
But like, you know what? That's kind of a weird concept. Like I've never gone somewhere and seen you, but I've seen you across from me with the guitar.
Yeah, yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, if you Google Tommy Dussault,
Spell that.
you'll it's a Dussault.
Okay.
So Tommy Dussault, and you can find me on social media. It's just at Tommy Dussault. And then I also run a podcast. It's at Post Hump Day. It's the Post Hump Day podcast. We put out an episode every Thursday.
That's
Um,
crazy.
so it's not all, recovery. It's more comedy and hot takes and whatnot. But we definitely do bring up mental health and have had more than one episode on mental health and recovery. So
That's amazing.
it's been
Anything
fun.
else you want to tell us when I'm going to meet this wonderful woman?
Oh,
I mean, when are you going to
yeah.
bring her to California and go to Disneyland or like, you got a
Yeah.
place and it's not really, come on.
Yeah, no, we actually talked about that. I definitely want to make a trip and bring her out and show her my second home out there with y'all.
That's
So
awesome. Oh, that just almost made me cry to hear you say that.
yeah, no, definitely. So we'll get some dates mapped out.
Okay. Let me know. Say hi to your parents and your brother and
I'll do that.
the babies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My niece
They're
and
not
nephew.
babies anymore, right?
Yeah, my niece is 4.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
sorry, my nephew's 4, and my niece, I think is 2.
Such a
So
cute age.
yeah, no, they're a lot of fun. So I get to give them back though. So
Yeah, it's great. You get to sleep.
yeah, yeah. There
My
you go.
sister has 3 under 5, and I said to her the other day, I'm tired. She goes, don't ever say that to me again. She
Yeah.
goes, I will literally kick you if you say you're tired in front of me. It's like, oh, sorry, I forgot.
Different level. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for bringing me on. Again, it really is an honor to be able to do
Mm,
this. So hopefully, you know, somebody can take something away.
I hope,
Absolutely.
yeah, I know they'll take lots away, and I appreciate you so much. You've always shown up anytime I've ever asked you for anything.
Likewise, absolutely. So it's a beautiful thing. So thank you very much.
Love you, Tommy.
I love you too.
Take care.
All right, you too.